In this video, I want to share some spring knitting inspiration with you. I'm going to show you some spring appropriate knitting patterns, as well as talk a bit more about yarns that are suitable for this time of year. Let's get started. First off, let's start with what I'm wearing. Now, the dress is not handmade. It is a 100% linen dress that I got from Etsy. I'm going to link it for you in the description box in case you're interested. But the shawl I did make myself. I'm going to take it off for a minute so that you can see. It is called Blossom. I think Blossom Shawl, and it is a design by Along Avec Anna. It is a very, very beautiful lace pattern. Let me show you. And I knitted it in one of my very rustic sock yarn bases, but I have to say that I really like this juxtaposition of the delicate lace together with the more rustic yarn. It created a very drapey and nice fabric, and I really like to wear this shawl. Let me put it back on. Okay, now I have to check in the mirror if it looks okay. Hold on for a second. And I'm back. Now, I've already filmed a similar video where I talked about my making plans for the spring and summer season. However, this video, I'm going to link it in case you're interested. It only contained tee and top knitting patterns. At the time when I recorded this video, the weather was already quite warm here, so we were already wearing short-sleeved tops and even shorts or skirts, and in my mind it was pretty much almost summer. So I only included tops and tee knitting patterns in this video, but since then the weather has gotten significantly colder again. We are in the 1 digits Celsius most of the time. I'm going to put up for you on the screen what this means in Fahrenheit, but it is quite cold. This is why I have decided to film a second video today and to show you some more spring knitting patterns that are a bit more appropriate when it's still a little bit chilly out and you need just that additional layer to be warm and cozy. Now let's talk about spring appropriate yarns first. In general, when it comes to yarns, there are two things you have to consider. The first thing is the thickness of the yarn, and the second thing is the fiber content. Now, the thicker the yarn, the warmer it's going to be. So an Aran weight sweater on the one hand is always going to be a lot warmer than a lace weight sweater. And when it comes to the fiber content, generally speaking, we differentiate between protein fibers like wool, alpaca, or cashmere, for example, and plant-based fibers. Those are linen, cotton, and hemp, for example. The 100% protein fiber yarns, like a 100% wool yarns, tend to be rather warm, whereas the 100% plant-based fiber yarns, like a 100% cotton yarn, tend to be a little bit cooler and more breathable. So if you have a 100% wool yarn on the one end of the spectrum and a 100% plant-based fiber yarn, like a 100% cotton yarn at the other end of the spectrum, of course, if you want to have something in between, it makes sense to choose a blend of a protein-based fiber and a plant-based fiber. And I have one example here. This yarn is called Saona, and it is by the Spanish company Wool Dreamers, and it is a blend of 50% merino and 50% cotton. I am currently working on a project with this yarn. I am making the Marin sweater by Natasha Hornby, and I'm hoping that it will be exactly this, a spring appropriate lighter sweater that is warm but not too warm. We'll see, I'll let you know how it turns out. Let's move on to my knitting pattern suggestions now, and we will start with the first category, which is cardigans. This cardigan is called Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion, and it is a design by Along Avec Anna. Now, I've actually made this cardigan a couple of years ago, but unfortunately I don't have it anymore, so I cannot show you my version. It was a very beautiful pink cardigan. I knitted it out of BC Garn in Silk Bloom Fino, which I just had a look, and it is apparently discontinued now. Now, they also say in the description of the yarn on the Ravelry page that this yarn is not suitable for garments because it is going to pill, and it did a little bit for me. I still like the cardigan though, because I think it is very elegant and classic looking, and I absolutely adore the dandelion stitch. Unfortunately, I knitted the cardigan too small, so it didn't really fit me, so then I hardly wore it. And if I do not wear something regularly, I usually do not keep it in my wardrobe. So that's why, but overall I think it's a very, very beautiful pattern, and I can highly recommend it. And I think it makes a perfect spring cardigan. The next cardigan knitting pattern that I wanted to show you is this one. This is the Primaveral cardigan by Isabella Clark. Now, Bella has a wonderful knitting podcast called the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast, and that's where I discovered this beautiful cardigan. I love everything about this design. I like the scalloped crochet edge, I like the puffy sleeves, and I also like this beautiful all over cable design. It looks very spring-like to me, maybe also because of the beautiful pictures that Bella took. But I think she knitted this cardigan holding 2 strands of unspun yarn together, so this created a worsted weight fabric, which is not as spring appropriate, at least here for us. But I think what you could do is just use a different yarn, although you would probably have to rework the math on the cardigan. If you are usually knitting one of the smaller sizes though, you could get by choosing one of the larger sizes in the pattern. So if you have a finer yarn, this sometimes works that you do not have to rework the math, and you can just size up and the cardigan is still going to fit like you intended to. But nevertheless, whatever yarn you choose, I think this is a very beautiful cardigan pattern. And the third cardigan knitting pattern that I wanted to show you is this one. It is called the Darling Wrap, and it is a pattern by Pernille Larsen, which is the designer behind Knitting for Olive. I think this cardigan or wrap looks absolutely stunning. It is knitted in Knitting for Olive's own yarn line. I think they used the merino along with a strand of silk mohair. And the cardigan really reminds me of these, how do you call them? I think warming jackets that ballerinas wear. Now, when it comes to anything ballet, I'm always or usually going to like it because I am actually taking ballet lessons myself. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, so I adore absolutely anything that has to do with ballet. And I think this wrap would fit very well in my wardrobe, and I'm really consider making it this year. It is worn with, or it is supposed to be worn with negative E, so it is quite fitted, and it has an all over ribbed design. The next category that we are going to talk about are slipovers or vests. Now, if you are looking to add a little bit more warmth but don't want a full-on sweater, I think slipovers or vests are a wonderful option because they are going to keep your core warm without being too warm. Personally, I have not knitted a slipover before, but here are some suggestions for you. First up is this pattern, which is the Weekend Slipover by Petite Knit. Now, she created this slipover by holding an Aran weight yarn together with a mohair, so she basically created a bulky weight yarn. This could be a bit too warm in the spring, but I think you could totally make this pattern by using a lighter weight yarn like a DK, for example. I also really like this design, which is called the Sway Line Slipover or Tee by Aneta Blaya. Now this one looks a little bit more fitted, so if I would knit it, I would probably choose the next size up to make it just a little bit looser so that I could wear something long sleeved under it. But I have to say, I really like the classic and elegant look of this design. Let's move on to the next category, which is sweaters. I have chosen 2 spring appropriate sweater designs, and this is the first one. It is called the Garden Pullover by Anke Strick, and I absolutely adore this design. I think it looks very elegant with the all over lace motif, and it is knitted in a DK weight yarn. So I think the combination of the lighter yarn and the all over lace pattern would make a stunning spring sweater. If you have a look at the Ravelry page of this knitting pattern, I'm going to link it for you in the description box. You can see a number of different versions of this sweater design. So as you can see, the sweater has been knitted in various colorways, and I think it looks very stunning in a number of different colors. So I definitely think that you can not go wrong with this knitting pattern. Another beautiful spring appropriate sweater pattern that I wanted to mention is this one. It is called Susurrus, I think, and the designer is Jorge Locatelli. This design was on the cover of Pom Pom magazine a couple of years ago. I think it was their spring 2020 edition, and I've had this pattern in my favorites ever since. I really love the stripy yet very elegant look, which is achieved by using a mohair yarn and a merino silk yarn. And you alternate between those 2 yarns to create the stripes. And the merino silk yarn is knitted with an all-over lace design. And I think this looks very, very stunning and also a bit unusual, which I quite like. And lastly, I wanted to share some top knitting patterns with you. Now, in my other video that I've already mentioned, I talk a lot about knitting pattern suggestions for summer tops and tees. So if you're interested in this, you can go watch this video afterwards. But I wanted to mention 2 more patterns. The first one that I wanted to show you is called the Rigmor Tee, and it is a knitting pattern by Petite Knit. It also has a lace motif, which is simple yet also very elegant looking in my opinion. I think you could also easily lengthen the sleeves to make a full length sweater out of it, which I imagine would look very beautiful as well. Now in my other video I talked about the Tastu, which is a design by Marie Wallen. Going to put it up for a comparison so that you can see. So I think actually the lace motif is the same in both designs, but the shape of the top is rather different. I'm not sure which one I personally prefer, to be quite honest. I think they are both really beautiful. Now the last top knitting pattern that I want to show you is this one. This is the Night Sky by Heidi Kiermeier. It has a very beautiful scalloped bottom hem with a lace motif, which you also have on the cuffs. And I really like the way she did the decreases in the yoke part, because to me they look more like a beautiful design feature and less like the increases you just have to do in order to knit the yoke. I think this is a very beautiful and clever design. The yarn I used is Ovis Etc. Igne in the colorway Seafoam. Now this is a blend of silk, remy and wool. And personally I really like this yarn, but I can imagine if you are a bit sensitive to more rustic yarns and prefer softer yarns, that this yarn might be too scratchy for you if you wear it directly on your skin. But to me this is just a very beautiful summer top, and I think it is one of my favorites as well. I hope you enjoyed my pattern selection. I would love to know what you are currently working on, so please let me know in the comments below. I am currently knitting a dress for one of my nieces. I'm doing the Anchor's dress by Petite Knit, and the yarn I use is a 100% cotton yarn from Sandnes Garn. I think it is called Mandarin Petite. I'm not sure. I'm going to put it up for you so that you can see. Until next time, bye guys!